Every leader has bad days. Most pretend they don't. This is the show where leaders stop pretending and start learning. Welcome to the Bad Days Leadership Podcast, where leaders pull back the curtain on decisions they cringe about, rooms they misread, and the failures that shaped everything after. Real leaders, real mistakes, real lessons. Because you can't become a great leader without a few bad days. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Bad Days Leadership Podcast. I am so glad you're here. If you've been following along, you know this show is all about something we don't spend enough time talking about in leadership, the bad days. Those days that we may regret in some ways, those moments that we cringe about and the lessons that we learned in those bad days that helps turn us into the leaders we are today. I am eager to introduce you to our next guest, and today's guest has had an incredible journey full of growth, leadership. She's had stretch moments and plenty of stories that fit perfectly with what this show is all about. I am thrilled to welcome Leticia Saiid to the show. Leticia, how are you today?
I am good. I'm excited to be here. I've been hearing about you guys' podcast and it's going to be fun.
Well, Leticia, we appreciate that and just so grateful and looking forward to the conversation. Leticia is the Chief of Staff and the Chief Learning Officer for a company in my hometown, Lubbock, Texas, called CoNetrix. It is really a family of technology companies underneath that umbrella, and she's been with them for 15 years. She's built a career centered on helping people grow. She started off as the very first software support specialist for a brand new product, eventually became the supervisor of that team. Then she's moved into the corporate side to focus on the employee experience. I know that she is passionate about helping people know themselves, build skills, and reach their goals. She leads CoNetrix's year-long leadership development program called Cultivate. She hosts supervisor workshops. She coaches public speakers. She provides individual coaching, all the things, right? And in her free time, she has a master's degree in mathematics and tries to educate the young people at her alma mater and my alma mater, Lubbock Christian University, by teaching college algebra on the side. Like you have time to do that. But Leticia, we are really glad you're here. Welcome to the Bad Days Leadership Podcast. We're glad you're here.
Thank you, Matt. It is awesome to be here. And I'll put emphasis on the word try to teach college algebra.
Well, I, as a former professor myself, I suspect you have a lot of undergraduate freshmen, maybe in that level of course, and you probably have had a lot of interesting moments that maybe we get into today. I don't know, but just eager to jump in. So one of the things that we want to do first here is just start off with a question that we often ask people. What's a leadership decision that, as you think about from your experience or maybe something you observed, that you still cringe about? Something that you're like, oh man, I can't believe that happened. You got any good stories for us?
I do. So the first story that comes to mind for me was I was a very new manager. I had probably, let's see, this was I think it was my third employee. And they had this problem where they were late all the time. And I had never experienced that problem before. Everyone else I had was very happy to be working for us and for me and would show up on time. And that was important to them. And so I could not figure out whenever I kept telling them, like, hey, be on time, and it wasn't working. I thought, okay, I have to do something more serious about this. Well, this isn't a problem we had at our small organization. And so I thought, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to make an official form and I'm going to say that once you sign it 3 times, like you're late 3 times and I sign here, you sign here, it's going to go like on your permanent record or whatever. I don't know anything about discipline. So um, I present this to the employee and I explained what was going to happen. And they said, so what happens after I sign it 3 times? As if they were planning to be late. And so I really misunderstood the things that were like sticks and carrots for me were not going to be the same as this other person. So it was not effective. Looking back, I wish that I would have just explained to them why it's important to be on time, how it looks to other people, how it affects their growth in the future, if this is something that's not important to them, and maybe like ask them, okay, let's make a plan. What do you think would work for you? So that's a moment that I still cringe about. I was just like, I don't even comprehend you right now.
Yeah, it's so interesting you said that. So one of the things one of the groups we work with often in our work at Great Days Leadership is those people who have moved from being on the team to supervising the team, because that is such a huge jump. And those high achievers, future leaders, we love working with those groups. And part of the reason is for what you just said, because there are things that work for us. Maybe we were on the sales team and now we lead the sales team, whatever it may be. Things that work for us don't always work for other people. And sometimes our worst days come from trying to do things the way we would have wanted them to do, or what something that might have worked for us, right? So I love hearing those moments because we all have those. And it's often not just early in career, but often those early career moments that provide those cringeworthy kind of experiences that sometimes we think we're doing a good job, we think we're leading in the right way, but actually we're not really leading at all. We're creating more problems for ourselves. And so I appreciate you sharing that. As we think about another question I want to ask you here is, uh, and this is an interesting question, and I think maybe something that you can speak into. Have you ever delivered feedback that went horribly wrong? Any experiences with delivering feedback? Maybe those were one of your bad days. I don't know.
Yeah, I deliver feedback. So I how do I want to say this? I'm actually pretty good at giving feedback. So whenever I went into this situation, I of course thought I have handled this so well. This is going to go
Right.
really well. As a public speaking coach, I give lots of feedback on presentations about how you stand and how you talk and how you organized your information. So for this incident, I had an employee. I'm trying to think if they worked. I don't think they worked directly for me, but I'm kind of an advisor type to a lot of different roles. So, anyways, I was encouraged to talk to this employee by someone else. It wasn't a rule. We didn't have to. It wasn't that they weren't allowed to have it, but it was more like, hey, just so you know, like the industries we work in or the older people we work with, it's kind of a more buttoned up industry. We work a lot with banks and credit unions. And so just to like consider when you're wearing it. Like we're cool, but I just want you to be thinking about this more. And so I delivered this information. I thought this went really well. And the way I figured out it did not go really well is that they started wearing it more. It was
Ah,
everywhere. It was in every photo. It was at every conference they attended. They dug their heels in about it. And I was like, okay, that did not go well. But a positive side to this story, because I'm always spinning for a positive, is someone who was connected to them that also had some of the same peripherals, they kind of started to change things. And so my advice that was for one person did help another person. Again, not that they couldn't, but it was just like, just be thinking about your audience and think about your goal. And are the things you're doing helping you get to your goals or not? So, anyways, her goal was different than what I thought her goal was. So it was independence and individuality, and I'm glad for her.
yeah, I love that. I remember early on, I don't know, maybe I was still in my 20s and I was leading a small team and was doing a presentation on a college campus. And there was a student who walked in. Uh, this is interesting. There's a student that walked in late to the presentation. I was doing a presentation on branding yourself for future employers. And so this student walked in late, and it was like as soon as he walked in the room, you could smell that he had doused himself in cologne. Okay. I mean, like, it was like everybody turned in the room because it was like overwhelming. And I was going on and on about your brand. And I always speak about your brand being the stories that people tell about you more than it is. I've been saying that for a long time. And I remember this is one of the first probably speeches I was giving on that topic. And this young man just walked in. He doused himself and he's dressed kind of funky and like this is like there's all these career people. Like it was like one of those days where at this school they were putting people through all these career related things. And he raised his hand at one point during the presentation. He's like, I don't agree with anything you're saying about brand. I said, oh, well, let's talk about it. And he said, my brand is that when I walk in the room, people know. And I was like, well, you're right on brand. Because I mean, you literally just walked in the room and everyone absolutely turned. And not just to see who it was because they were interested, to see who it was because it was so off putting. But he was the same thing, like you just said. He's just all about individualism. This is who I am. This is what I want to do. People will not be able to forget me. And I was like, oh man, I don't know what happened to that young person at all. I thought about him many times because it is, but it's so tricky too, trying to navigate in a world where there is a lot of individualism and a lot of expressions of that, right, in the workplace, and not everything works in every audience. And man, I think about that, but yeah, I appreciate your story, but it reminded me of that guy. I wonder what happened to Mr. Cologne. I don't even remember his name, but it was fascinating. So you've been at CoNetrix for 15 years, and that's awesome. It's a great company. It's got a great reputation. It's very well thought of. It's a leader in so many different ways as a company. You also intersect with people in other companies, vendors, clients, customers. You've intersected with a lot of people in the professional world. And so this next question, maybe I think there's probably a really good way to ask this, but I'm just going to ask you really plain and simple. What is a red flag that you have found in leadership that now, like early in your career, maybe you didn't notice it, but now that you've been around a lot of different leaders, you've seen and you've been exposed to a lot of different things in the business world. What's a red flag in leadership that maybe early on you couldn't see, but now you can almost spot it instantly?
I would point to being a bottleneck.
Okay.
So as like newer in the workforce, it's like, "Oh, I'm waiting on such and such from someone," and that's just it. It's like, "Oh, I'm waiting," there my boss is very busy. But now when I see that happen, when I really like working with like the frontline people. They're the most exciting for me. And so, but whenever it's like, where are you on this project? How's it going? They're like, well, I'm waiting on a response or I'm waiting on some direction from my supervisor. I'm like, oh, okay. When are you expecting that? And they're like, I don't know. They're working on it. I said, well, how long has it been? And they tell me days, weeks, months. I'm like, this is a problem because here you are ready, energetic to move something along, and there is someone who cannot get you a 30-second answer, or heck, after months, an hour answer, but like to give you the needed little time and attention for you to be able to like move on to these big picture things and things that are going to carry everyone along. So we really hamstring our people when we have to be answering everything. And I've seen this, I've seen the bad side of it and I've seen the good side of it. So that's the top red flag that always catches me, and I'm like, so frustrated."
Yeah, you can see it coming, huh? I mean that's a great example. You know, on the other side of that, sometimes it's not just a pattern that we see or a red flag. Sometimes it's just a phrase, or maybe you've had a moment or where you've heard a comment from a leader and it just has really just stuck with you. Where you've seen it and you're like, wait a minute, that was wrong, or that was different, or that didn't make sense. But so what's something, maybe a bad leader or some kind of experience that you've had with a leader that maybe said something that you'll never forget for all the wrong reasons?
Mm, yeah. There's a phrase that haunted me for like years. And I feel like I have to say it wasn't a bad leader, but it was someone who just said something in the
Someone had a
moment.
bad day, right?
They had a bad day. Man, I think they thought it was gonna be helpful. So good on them for that. But the phrase that I had a supervisor say to me at one point was, I think people get done as much as they want to get done. And that was very detrimental to me as a high performer because I can tell you there is 100 times more things I want to get done than I do get done. And so I took serious offense to that. I took that to mean that whatever I would get done in a day or a week or a month, that this person would see it as like, well, it would have been more if you cared to do more, but this is how much you cared to do. And I I mean, I'm telling you, it was probably like a decade between when that happened and when I was retelling this story to someone and I was like, "Can you believe?" And all of a sudden I was like, he was not talking about me. When my supervisor gave me this advice, was whenever I was complaining about an employee who was, I'm telling you, this was like the worst one I ever had. And it was like, we were not, this person was not getting anything done. And I could not even wrap my mind around it as someone who has a lot of ambition. And so whenever I was expressing my difficulty and frustration, and so he tells me, I think people get done as much as they want to get done. I didn't take it as him trying to help me feel better about the situation. I took it as, a personal offense, and then I beat myself up for years about it. So, a phrase that I like to tell people is, "You may not be speaking into a big moment in someone's life. Like it could just be day to day stuff. You might not be speaking into a big moment, but you could be speaking a lasting moment." So, think about these words of wisdom that you share.
That is a really good word. Yeah, I think there's so many times where in leadership, and I'm sure there's things that I wish I hadn't have said that somebody took and they're still thinking about it. And nothing that was meant to be that significant a moment, right? But it's something like you said, 10 years later, you're still thinking about it. I can think about several of those moments where somebody said something and you're like, oh, wait a minute. What do you mean here? What are you talking about? Are you talking about me? And while we want to be coachable and teachable and we want to learn and we want to, be obviously on a growth, continue to be with a growth mindset and how we perform and pursue things, and those words sometimes matter. And so I appreciate you sharing that. And I think your words of wisdom there to all those listening that are in leadership roles to say, hey, don't just say stuff to say stuff. Right? I mean, don't just make throwaway comments because they can stick. And they do stick. And often in ways we don't even know. So, wow, what a great story. So take me back a little bit to when you were early in career. I mean, some of those, especially those early leadership opportunities you had. What's one thing you know now that you wish someone had told you that as you were a young leader, emerging leader, young professional? What's something you know now that you wish you had known then?
Hmm. Okay, so I think I'll tie this to that last answer. And it's that it is not about you. I took so many things personally. Everything was about me. Every look was about me. Every decision was about me. Every project that did or didn't happen was about me. I was, and that's normal when you're first getting out of school, right? You are the center of your world. So learning that, um, moving from just like entering the workforce and then also becoming a leader even whenever you're young, man, none of it is about you. Everybody has their own worlds happening inside of them. So even like that supervisor who told me that thing, and the way that I held on to it, he didn't give me that. I attached to it that way because of things that already existed inside of me, because of thoughts I already had about myself and the way that I thought that the world worked. I'll give you another story. So when I was running a few years ago, running the professional development group that I have here, and I've got 8 people who are in it every single year, and there's an application process. And I gave them an assignment, and the assignment was to memorize our core values. So we have 4 core values, and they each have like a statement that is, it's maybe like 2 sentences long. So I was like, we're going to memorize these. We're going to have a little competition. It's going to be so fun. Well, these people were not motivated by competition. Wish I would have known that before I started this system for them. But we show up and I'm like, okay, who's ready? And I'm like, okay, you, Chris, you go first. He's like, oh, actually, I didn't do it. I was like, you didn't do it. You should be trying to impress me, right? And so I was like, okay, that's fine. Some people do that. I look at the next guy. I'm like, Brad, okay, your turn. He was like, oh, I didn't do it. I was like, did anyone in the room do what I asked? And I had two people. I was like, okay, great. I'll let you recite it. So they recited it. And then I was fuming. And maybe the story is too long, but I was fuming. So I sit down and I'm ready to move on to like the next element of the day. I'm just wanting this to be over with. And one of them says, are we going to have a crucial conversation about this? So we were actively reading the book, Crucial Conversations. And I was like, "You know what? Yeah, let's have a crucial conversation." I was hot, I was aflame, and I was like, "But this is good. We're going to talk about it." And so we talked about it, and again, I realized it's not about me because I took it as a personal offense. I asked them to do something, they don't care about me, they don't care about the program, they don't care about growing. That's why they didn't do it. They all had their individual reasons, and about half of them were because they were terrified of having to recite something in front of a group of people. Some of them were like, "Oh, you were really lax last time, and I just didn't have a lot of time, so I figured it wasn't a big deal." Like everybody had their reasons. So I'm really glad we had our crucial conversation, and that was just another example of it's so easy to be like, "It's about me," and man, I think I want to tell you, it's like never about you.
Well, that is such a great story, a great example. So, how long did those people last at the company? No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
They're still here.
They're still there and they're listening, and I bet they know those values now. Yeah, they do.
They
Yeah, she's
do.
nodding her head. Yeah, yeah, they definitely do. Finally, here in just a moment, I'm gonna give you a chance to talk about some things that are exciting to you about what's coming up in your work and with you personally. But before we get there, I want to ask another question or two, maybe here, because this podcast is all about the transformation that comes from those tough moments. How did some of these mistakes and some of these moments that you've described today and to others out there shape your current leadership style? What
Hmm.
did we learn from some of those lessons, some of those bad days? What did we learn from that?
Let's see. I like that question. What did we learn from all of these bad days? Well, okay, so I kind of have an essentialist mindset. So I find myself wanting to like lay them all out and find their patterns and then give you like titles for everything. So if it's I'm gonna start with the whole it's not about you for your leadership activities. People are going to do things. People are going to say things, whether they're above you or below you or beside you. They're going to say things that don't make sense or that you assume mean something. They're going to be disconnected or they're going to be overly connected. You're just not going to understand them. And the biggest thing I have learned is to ask, to start a dialogue. And I think in balance with that, we want to start a dialogue, and we don't have dialogues with ideas, we have dialogues with people. And so I've had many a times where someone will be like, well, the developers, such and such. And I'm like, okay, hold on. It's not the developers, it's our friends, Corey, it's our friends, Jacob. Or like, well, the operations team. No, it's our friends, Keisha, it's our friends, Tia. And so I think the biggest thing that I've learned from my bad days is that turns out we're all people and people have things inside of them and people have reasons. And if we as leaders can be the one to step in and slow down, to step in and turn down the temperature. I've learned that from my direct supervisor now, Russ Hoare. He's fantastic at that. He's told me so many times, man, I've gotten into a few different situations, and he looks at me and he's like, you need to pour water on this. That you need to pour water on it. You don't need to add anything else to the flame. Apologize, move on. Like, this is not important. We need to redirect attention. So yeah, people are people and they have their business. And if we can turn down the dial and we can start dialogue, I found we can solve just about anything.
Yeah, I love that. So in the book we have coming out soon, one of the chapters, one of the core principles we talk about is leadership is working for the good of the people.
Mm.
And inside that chapter, there are 6 what we call people principles that we discuss. And a couple of them that come to mind in what you're sharing here. One, everybody, eh, all people, right? Everybody is different, but also everybody is the same. And the sameness piece is all about that humanity. We all show up, we bring things with us from, home. What's going on with our health? What's going on with our kiddos? What's going on with our neighbors? What's going on at church? Whatever it is that, people show up to the office, and while everybody's got these differences, we also have all these similarities. And as leaders of people, we have to, if we're going to work for the good of the people, we have to think about the people. We have to understand the people. We have to know their stories. We have to know what makes them tick. We have to see them as not a product of this decision or this conversation or this thing that went haywire, right? These are people. And what you just described as a lesson learned, I think is really, really powerful. It's really, really powerful. Leticia, this has been fantastic. So thank you for sharing your stories, your honesty, and your wisdom. It's always refreshing to talk to leaders who are so open about the moments that didn't go quite like they had planned or like they thought. It's one of the reasons we do this. We can learn so much from those moments where we've been challenged or we've created the challenges sometimes, right, for others to get through. And all those things, all those lessons help shape us into who we are today. And so before we wrap, uh, tell our listeners where people can connect with you, how they can follow your work, learn more about what you're doing, both at CoNetrix and beyond. We'd love to have you share with our folks how they can stay up to date with what's going on with you.
Okay, great. Well, probably the best way to keep up with me would be on LinkedIn. So, Leticia Saiid, and I'm at CoNetrix. I'm actually off of all other social media, but I keep LinkedIn for work and business connection purposes. So you can kind of see what we're up to there. I think that something I'd like people to see is just to kind of follow along what things are happening here at CoNetrix. I think we've got a really unique environment. I think that we've got kind of a fun story about how we've come to be and our different companies, and we've got great people here. So, if you need cybersecurity services, technology services, we have an accounting software as well. We would love to work with you because we love what we do and we love our teams and we're having a good time here in West Texas. Also, man, any good candidates who love the West Texas area and want to be here, we are a little bit picky about our hiring because when you bring someone in, you're not just affecting that person, you're affecting your whole team. So send us any good candidates. I think that that's pretty important for me.
It is such a great company. I have had such great respect for the company you're in for so many years, from the founding and from the original leadership and then your current leadership. I know so many people there. And so it's been really good to connect with you to hear your perspective on what it's like to be there and the lessons you've learned. We just are grateful for you being with us today. And to everyone listening, remember, just as has been described today, your worst days do not disqualify you, they develop you. And we want to be people of growth. Leaders are lifelong learners. So thanks for joining us. And please remember to like, share, and subscribe to the Bad Days Leadership Podcast. And until next time, have a great day.